Hi, I'm Thomas of Meaningful Gigs, and welcome back to Heroes of the Creative Revolution. In this episode, I speak with DesignOps leader Amy Zuccaro about enabling design teams at large organizations. She talks about the unique challenges of DesignOps at large companies, how to enable more focus within design teams, and much more. Let's dive in. Well, hi, Amy. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. Love to just start simple and get some information on your background in design and design ops.
Cool. So I have been a working designer, design ops professional for longer than I care to admit at this point. It's probably been about 20 some years. Started out as a visual designer, web designer, new media designer back in the day, and kind of got into the whole operations thing. As a lead designer, I was asked when I was with Symantec, I was asked to manage a team, and found that that's where my real strengths were, making sure that process was right, making sure everybody had what they needed to be successful, and taking care of the team and making sure they were happy and healthy and doing what they needed to do to produce great work.
And so what are some examples of how you've been able to increase the amount of time designers can actually be able to focus on delivering high quality work?
So like I said, I make sure that they are happy and healthy. You can't expect your designers to show up every day to do their work if they are bringing other things with them, if they're doing things that don't necessarily pertain to what their job is, giving them the focus time that they need to do their job. So they do the best work if they're not fighting with the tools that they need to do or trying to figure out why their headphones won't connect to their laptop. If you are then able to offload things from them too. So if you're sending all 5 of your designers to the same backlog grooming meeting, it's not really an efficient use of time, and they're probably all bored out of their minds. So maybe send a design ops person to do that and then relay what they need to know from them. So making sure that they are happy, that they're healthy, that they're doing the work that they need to be doing and focusing on what they're good at.
How do you know where to focus and to ensure that you're going to have the biggest impact on design work?
So as designers, we do user research on our products, and we let the users guide us to tell us what features our products should have, what functionality they should have. We need to do that with our teams as well. And as part of design operations, we focus on what the problems the team has is. So if designers solve problems for their users, design ops is how we solve problems for our designers. So check in with them, have regular one-on-ones, ask questions. Also talk to the cross-functional teams that they work with and see if there's any ways you can make improvements that will make everybody's life easier. If more than one of your designers or more than one of your engineers is coming to you with the same problem, you probably need to pay a little bit of attention to it. So truly listen to their responses and solve the problems that need solving.
Could you walk us through a couple of examples of how you've managed change or big changes for designers while ensuring that they continue to fire on all cylinders and produce great work?
When I was with Symantec, I was working on the Norton products, and we converted everybody to agile development, and they spun up all these different Scrum teams. And we embedded a designer with each one of these Scrum teams. So the designers were being stretched a little bit thin. They had all of their design work, and they were accountable to that one team. So the standards weren't necessarily being upheld. They were more concerned with throughput. And so we started getting complaints. The designers weren't necessarily happy. They were just cranking through all of this work. So what we did was we took a look at the situation. We pulled out all the designers and we centralized them into one Kanban team. And that was able to then prioritize an ongoing backlog, making sure everybody had what they needed to get things done, that they were all versed in all the types of products. And we increased throughput by like 26% on that front. And the quality went up of the design work. The designers were happier. And you might imagine that people would freak out in that case when we go to the product owners and we'd say, okay, we're gonna pull the designer from your team. They lost their minds. And so we said, okay, we're gonna pilot this with one team, and we're gonna see how this goes. That was the case that we made for the proof of it, and we were then able to scale that across all the teams in our organization. I like to run these short pilots as experiments, so if they fail, we can throw them away and never speak of them again, and they don't impact anybody else but the team that ran the product. But if they do work, then you have that proof point that gets everybody on board.
What challenges are unique to DesignOps at large organizations versus small companies?
So at small companies, you probably have one design team, and that consists of like 2 or 3 designers, if you're lucky. At a big team, you have 10, 15, 25 design teams, and they're all doing roughly the same type work. And so I ran into this at SAP. There are 100,000 people, tons of design teams, tons of doing the work that needed to get done for their core area. So the biggest challenge that I found at large organizations was making sure the work you're doing isn't already being done by another team or 2 other teams or 10 other teams. We had a way of saying, well, I couldn't find this thing, this repository that I needed, so I just built one myself. But really, there were like 7 or 8 of those other repositories floating around that you could have just taken and used for your own purposes. So build your network. Go through and meet other design teams, meet the engineering teams you work with, meet everybody. Go make friends with everybody, because that is going to get you to the point where you're kind of seeing visibility in all of these different areas. You're not reinventing the wheel every time you have a big project that you need to work on. So when I was with SAP, I managed all the Figma license for some time. So I was lucky in that respect that I had all of the designers' names in a major spreadsheet that managed those licenses. So at least I knew them all, at least by name, which was great, because anytime any part of the organization came up where I had to work with one of those other teams, I already knew who to talk to. So build your network, make friends, and that'll help you in a large organization.
I'm curious now, with your experience, what advice would you give your younger self just starting off in design operations, or someone who's coming into the field new?
Not necessarily just design operations, but in general, it's totally fine to say, I don't know. Like, nobody expects you to have all the answers. Nobody expects you to know everything. If you're in a meeting, if you're in a situation and it's new and unique, it's totally fine to say, I don't know the answer to that question. But you have to follow it up with, but I'll find out, or I'll figure it out. And then of course you have to go do that work. But that's where I would say I would lend most advice.
And I'm curious, what's one of the bigger design ops challenges you face, or the biggest, if you can name it, that you faced in your career?
Getting adoption of design operations. So I've worked with teams that they understand the purpose of why they need design operations as a theoretical concept. But when it comes down to you only get however many scarce headcount, they're afraid to surrender one of those to pick up a program manager or a producer. They're almost there. They almost get it. Yeah, we want the designers to have that support. We want them to have these things, but headcount, we can't do that. So it's really hard to get them over that line.
What's the most fun you've had in any of your roles?
So I was with Symantec for 13 years, and we had a very tight-knit design team there in consumer e-commerce. We used to do these design summits. And so we worked on the e-commerce products. So anytime you bought or sold, or you bought Norton product, that would be my team's work. The product design team, I'm in the Bay Area in Northern California. They were in Southern California, and between us, we had like 50 some people. So we would have these design summits with them where we'd get everybody together. Our global team members would come in, and we'd learn, eat great food, do team building if events. My role was to plan and get the speakers and pick the places for dinner and make the arrangements and do all of that event planning part of it. We just had some really productive meetings, and those were great times that we got to be together in work-related and, social activities too.
Who else in the design ops space do you admire and draw inspiration from?
Oh boy, so many people. I was lucky to work with Allison Rand at SAP. She had a really great way of kind of structuring the team so that we could provide the support that we needed. Jamie Lopez, now at Zillow, was part of that organization too. Dave Maloof, visionary in the field. Jose Coronado, who's now at Target. He's a great inspirational leader. Kristen Skinner, Meredith Black from DesignOps or DesignOps Assembly. I know I'm missing people, but every one of these leaders advocates for the practice, the work that we're doing, and normalizing that you need to have somebody doing design operations on every design team. Oh, and of course, you guys, like Meaningful Gigs has been terrific with bringing design ops to the forefront and fostering this great community that we can all kind of bounce off and get inspiration from each other.
That's the last of my questioning. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention or plug while you have a moment?
No, I don't think so. I think just, we need to, like I just said, we need to normalize having a design ops person on every design team, because if you're expecting your design leaders to do all of this scaffolding and support for the teams by themselves, in addition to working on the pixels and the strategy and the vision, it's more than a one-person job. So put it in the hands of a professional and get the support for your design teams. They'll thank you for it, and their work will show it.